These are the faces of the forgotten men known as the Tigers.
All the toys are out today. All the toys are out to play.
Hey there, welcome back to the Toy Room. It's always great to see you beautiful people come back for a visit. Are you ready for some action? This episode has action!
So we cock the combat kid's arm back, and you press his back. Whoa!
Thanks, Combat Kid. You know, in our family, Santa Claus came on Christmas morning. So on Christmas Eve, it was really just a long time waiting so we could go to bed, wake up very, very early on Christmas morning and see what Christmas presents Santa Claus brought us. The exception was one Christmas Eve where my mom gave my younger brother Tom and I each a couple of small gifts. And these were these action figures called the Tigers. And the gimmick with them was you could press their back and each one of them would do a different action. And they all had different faces with very different characters. And they were about the size of a Gumby. And they had wires in them and you could move their arms and legs around. And the soldiers that Tom and I had were, I had Combat Kid, who threw a Molotov cocktail, and I had Pretty Boy, who saluted. And Tom had Bugle Ben with a bugle, of course, and he had Big Ears, who held up a walkie-talkie to his ears. And of course he had big ears, and he was the goofiest looking soldier that I ever saw. Topper Toys was a brand name for Deluxe Redding, a toy company based out of New Jersey that made toys from the 50s to the early 70s till it went out of business. And they were probably most famous for Johnny Lightning, which were these cars that were competitors to the Hot Wheels. And of course my favorite that I never actually had, which was the Johnny 7 One-Man Army. And it had all kinds of neat guns with it, and they had great TV commercials and great print ads. And they also made a lot of dolls from the 50s to the 70s, the most famous being the Dawn doll. You know, I was trying to figure out what year it was that we got the Tigers, and I know that they started producing them in 1966, but a lot of times my mom liked to get things on clearance a year or two later and got them really cheap, and then she probably gave those to us and had kind of forgotten about them maybe even. And I did recall that there was a family slide where in the background you can see me in the background holding Combat Kid, and of course in the foreground is my nephew Mike and my sister-in-law. When my brother went to Vietnam in the 60s, my sister-in-law came to live with us, and my nephew Mike was born in October of 1969. And I believe that this slide was probably taken on that Christmas Eve in 1969. So I would have been 10 years old, and my younger brother Tom would be 7 years old. So there you go. I think it was the first winter that we had the Tigers, and we also had another toy called Build-O-Fun that was made by Tupperware. And I don't know if my mom got these at a Tupperware party or if they sold them in stores. And just so you know what I'm talking about, I'm going to go down in the basement and get the old Build-O-Fun. And I bet you didn't know this, there's a basement right below the toy room, so I'm going to go into the toy closet, take the stairs down, and go down to the basement, and I'll be back in a bit.
We're now in the basement below the toy room, and there's my old Wonder Horse. I think the Build-O-Fun is somewhere around here down in the toy basement. You know, I didn't think I could find it, but I found in this box here with some Hot Wheel track and American bricks. Here, I'll pull it out. I do have a couple sets, and they're in the box, so that's cool. But we'll take it upstairs now to the toy room upstairs. So here's the Build-O-Fun sets made by Tupper Toys. And this is the 101 set and the 102. So we'll take a look and see. Here's the smaller set. And boy, Tom and I were neat little buggers. Look at that. We put all the pieces nicely back into the box. And here's a bigger set, and we'll take a look at that. we'll slide out two trays of pieces. Again, boy, we're neat. And I see I put my first initial on some of the pieces there. See that? Very nicely organized. Here's the brochure of different things you can make. A movie camera and vehicles, airplane, chairs. Oh, look at the size of that airplane. A whole train set. Boy, there's some elaborate stuff there. I haven't seen these for years, so this really brings back some memories here. I remember it always kind of hurt your fingers to slide those white bars across the blue and red pieces to put it together. And it's cool that they had the wheels so you could make all kinds of vehicles and things. Oh, look at that one there, huh? Oh boy, look at that hook and ladder in a Polynesian house. Ooh, a space control center. This was actually a pretty creative toy, and on the back of the master set there, we see some other scenarios of things you could build. Telephone, tractor crane, stagecoach, puppet show. All right.
I know I got a little sidetracked with the Build-A-Fund there, but anyway, around that same time, we took the Build-A-Fund and we made little cars for the tigers. And there was a big pile of snow out front by the driveway, and we built the cars for our tigers, and we took them outside, and we built little tunnels through the pile of snow, and we drove the tigers in their cars through the snow. And of course, as a result, they got covered with snow and they were kind of wet when we came in. So we threw all the tigers into the dryer, and they were in the dryer. We didn't think to take off their clothes and just dry the clothes. We threw the tigers in there, and they were rumbling around the dryer. And I think Big Ears was a little worse for the wear, and I think from the heat of the dryer, I do believe his arm got a bit injured. Sorry, Big Ears.
Throughout my travels to junk shops and flea markets and antique shows, I didn't really see many tigers around, but many years ago at a flea market at the state fairgrounds, a dealer had several of the tigers in their original packaging, and I bought all the ones that he had, and they were $15 a piece, and I read online now they go maybe for about $40, but they're not that expensive compared to a G.I. Joe. And here's Combat Kid, the one that I had, and Pretty Boy, which I also had. And there's The Rock and Bugle Ben that Tom had, and there's the Sarge smoking a stogie. You know, this packaging is kind of interesting. It's this hard plastic, transparent. It's more like a cryogenic sleep chamber, you know, for suspended animation or something. But they're kind of cool. I don't know how they would have stored them on shelves that easily. And they have like a nice little background in there, you know, with some detailing in the background behind the soldiers. The Sarge is the most complete in its packaging because it has the label Topper Toys on top. And as you can see here, he's got this band around his neck where all the figures were secured in, their neck was secured in place as well as their feet down here. There's also some nice graphics on the back where you can see all of the 8 tigers here, including Machine Gun Mike and Tex. And these were some accessories you could get, the Tiger Tank and the Tiger Wall and Cannon. And the tank, if you hit it with a shell, a guy would pop out and surrender. And if you hit that wall right in the center, it would explode. In one of the packages, there's a nice brochure, and it has pictures of all the tigers, and it has a little story about each one. And here's the other side. The Rock, Bugle Ben, Machine Gun Mike. Now, of course, you're going to want to see some demonstrations, so we cocked the Combat Kid's arm back, and you press his back. I remember with my original Combat Kid, this handle here for the Molotov cocktail broke off, and for years I thought I was going to carve a new Molotov cocktail out of wood. Of course, I never did that. What was odd about this to me was that he threw it underhand, and I don't think you would throw an actual Molotov cocktail underhand. I would think you'd throw it overhand, but of course the mechanics of that wouldn't work out too well. Pretty Boy salutes. Sarge raises his gun. Bugle Ben sounds the attack. Toot-toot-toot-toot. The Rock has a hot pineapple for you. I also have one additional Tigers item. It's an official accessory kit. It's a must for your Tigers, believe me. So it's a uniform and some accessories, and has some nice packaging, and on the back some nice graphics of all the Tigers there, and the tank and the cannon.
You know, as always, I really appreciate that you took the time to stop by and visit the toy room. And there's somebody else that wants to show their appreciation.
Once again, Pretty Boy salutes you for watching this episode.
Until next time, I'll be seeing you.